Well, I want to move on because we have a lot of games, and the next game we're going to talk about is Clickolding. Now, Clickolding, the thing I want to begin with Clickolding, for people that don't know, it is a game where you sit and you press a clicker for a person in a mask who has paid you to do so for reasons that become apparent in the game quite quickly. I don't know why I'm not spoiling it. I'm like, don't ruin the intro.
That's a pretty good way of retaining the mystery on that. Actually,
I
I'm
think
impressed
so.
with that.
Yeah, thanks. I played the whole thing because it's a short experience. I went through the whole thing today. I don't know how out there the story of how this got funding is, because I know it as a story internally, but I don't know if it's a story that's even. Do we externally talk about that? Like we can not talk about it. But
there's an entire
such a good story, though.
It is. That's the only reason I've got it in here. Is I'm like, I don't know if we can talk about this, but it's a good story as to how this began. So, do we talk about that? I don't know.
I mean, there's an entire oral history that was done by Wired magazine about the creation of Clickolding, so we can talk about it again.
Then let's go, Wired magazine. Let's get it done. What is this story? Because it's a very good story.
Before we hop into anything else around it, I'd love, Dimitri, if you could expand on when the game was then happening. I don't even remember how we started talking about it. I'd love to, if you could elaborate on that story as well. But like, we had to design who the Clickhold was. What were they doing? Because at first there was supposed to be an animal mask, and then Gary Kings, our usual guy who does trailers, said if you do an animal mask, you're a hack, and this game, which you already shouldn't do, will be worse. And
that
so
sounds like something Gary would say. Yeah.
Very Gary.
Yeah. And so
That's
I came
Gary.
to you, Dimitri, and how did we start working on the Clickhold mask, and how did that get built?
So yes, I recall it fondly. In the first place, I remember Zolliver came to me and said something like, "We need a guy." He showed me a photo of like the guy from Outer Sloth. I forget his name, but like the shirt, like the jacket and shirt that he was wearing at that conference. Right?
Yes, there was at the meeting, which is chronicled in the Wired article about where Clickhold happens. I had pointed at a man who was sitting in attendance, one of the leads actually at Inner Sloth, and I said, "Can I take a picture of your outfit right now?"
You look like someone that would do this.
Well, the outfit looked like it would be worn by someone who would do this. It's not him, just everything just from the neck down.
Yeah.
And he let me, and I sent that over.
Hey, can I grab your weird pervert suit real quick?
So he's been immortalized. We've talked about it since. He also remembers it fondly, but I don't think he wears that outfit anymore. It's the
no.
That's
places you know of.
That's
Your
the monkey
influence
paw
is vast.
But did it start with me sending over the outfit?
I think that was one of the very first like bits of correspondence we had about it. I think in the first place you said something like, we want him to be wearing an animal mask of some kind, and we want this to be the outfit. So he's gonna be he's gonna be like sitting in the corner of the room. And I believe the other note that you had was that instead of being like jump scare scary, you said something like, I want him to sort of feel like a wolf in an elevator with you wearing a bow tie or a tie or something. And I forget which item of clothing, but basically like a wolf, like you're stuck in an elevator with a wolf wearing a tie. And the idea is it's less like alarming, frightening, and more like you're going to be stuck in here for a long time and you don't know what this creature is thinking or what it's going to do. So initially I came up with some animal mask concepts. I think what we came up with in the first place was like a donkey head. I came up with some donkey head masks. I can find those concept pieces for you. I was thinking, on the one hand, I don't know, I was like animal mask, weird sexual suggestion, and I was like Midsummer Night's Dream, obviously. This is a bottom reference, you know? Whatever. Also, there's something
bottom
strange.
For a man who wants to be a top.
It's true, you know? There's a case to be made, certainly. So I came up with this poor fella's jacket shirt combination with a donkey mask on. right from the outset, also, I had the idea of those beady little, like, don't hug me, I'm scared type of eyes. This was a constant. This was never not going to be like this. In my mind, this is the shape language of, like, unsettling horror kind of language. Anyway, but all of that was in place, and then Zalavir sent me the follow-up message like, hey, we're not doing an animal mask anymore. It's been done. He's like, instead I want to do something. How did you describe it exactly? The idea was that it should, once again, he's like, I forget exactly, but it was like this kind of uncanny feeling that we're going for, but without any sort of recognizable creature, like without any specific animal that people could identify.
And I actually have the original messages as well, where it started from there, talking about doing something original, where you started talking about material. I talked about potentially doing a slip-on mask where you had one big mouth hole and then a lot of little holes intentionally built to trigger trypophobia, and then deciding against that for accessibility reasons.
Yes.
I sent the most busted-ass MS Paint reference I have maybe ever sent an artist for this. I'm posting this into our internal chat for this video. Do you remember the slip-on hole mask?
I think so.
And so we were trying to find from the ground up, like, what is threatening, unsettling language.
Yeah. And I think at some point we settled in an aesthetic direction, which you called horror noodle, I believe.
Danger noodle.
Danger noodle, of course.
Because I was talking about how I hate dolphins and how they unsettle me, like most creatures of the sea, but them especially because they're little animal bastards. They literally are one of the only creatures smart enough to know what a crime is and to do crimes.
Yes. Right.
And so how did it end up looking like a moose? That's what I want to know. Where did we go from?
It's not a moose. It's a dolphin.
I was like, how did we get where
it's
we
a
are?
camel.
Zalavir sent me another busted up ass Microsoft Paint drawing at some point, actually, or you may have drawn this one by hand, but it was sort of like a sock puppet shaped creature with like a little eye hole. Do you remember this one in profile?
I am looking up. The last time we talked about it, it may have been over a video call, because all of the sketches I'm seeing were you at a certain point where you said deconstructed donkey mask, and it looks pretty similar to what the Clickold ended up being.
Okay. Interesting.
So, I want to get more. I want to get into kind of the meat of the game itself. So obviously slightly spoilery, but at what point do we pivot from it being, it sounds like cuckolding as a pun, and it's got a silly mask face, into it's got a more serious bent to it? Like,
well, I think something that people don't
away?
realize about Clickolding is that Zalavir was dead serious about it from the jump.
Dead serious.
There was no point where he was like, "Ha ha, hee hee." This is
so when you went
look, it's
cuckolding
about...
to Clickolding, there was no humor within that. You were like,
there's humor, but he was like dead serious about it. Like, Zalavir, you can probably put it better than I can, but at no point was it just like, look at this pun game that we're making, and it's a joke and it's wordplay. It was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about the very sensorial experience of clicking a thing for another person.
Yeah, because I'd say the two exist within the game in and of itself. So, like, what's that point?
So it was originally, as the article kind of archives, I had interacted with the tally counter for the first time during GDC week. It culminated in this very long, bleary night where I ended up making the pun, like, because someone was watching two of us click a clicker, and we were trying to find a non-sexual way for two people to click a clicker at the same time. At one point, one person was bouncing their hand against two of ours up here, and it was quickly called soaking by everybody present. And when I said, like, and someone pulled up a chair and was watching this, and I was like, are you Clickolding us? Is this a Clickhold chair? And as soon as, like, something that had already been culminating in my mind around, like, potentially, is this this is satisfying enough to maybe carry a game. When as soon as I said Clickolding, there's something that is very universal about my games. You can see it all the way back to like Can Androids Pray and Airport for Aliens Could They Run by Dogs, which is I don't like easy jokes. And this causes a lot of work for myself and many other people. But the idea of this being even the way that the term that like terms around cuckolding, whatever else, have been used for comedic purposes and for demeaning purposes over time, motivated me to really go and from the night that this came up that we came up with, as I started to construct the game loop and the narrative, I was like, no, what does it mean to do justice to this? What does it mean for this joke, quote unquote, needs to be something real and meaningful for it to be worth doing at all. Because if it is a quick little vaguely sensual joke game, then why is it worth my time from my life and other people's lives? We will only get to make so many games in this life. Is Clickolding going to be something we're ultimately proud of? And it is debatable whether this is all meaningful, but for me at least, Clickolding has two really special purposes. The first one was, taking it really seriously from the beginning and trying to not present it as a joke, finding even marketing people who would not treat it as a joke, and collaborators like Candace and RJ and everyone else, and doing directorial things to not necessarily remove the absurdity from it, to not remove the absurdity, but to absolutely remove the silliness and anything that could strip away any concept that we're trying to make something artistic here. And games tends to, when they do anything in the realm of like the sensual or the sexual, it tends to go for the lowest brow, most puerile form of the thing. And there's a discomfort with earnestly reckoning with, in this example, this is a person who is deeply hurting. What does intimacy mean in their life? And what does it mean for you to contribute to that and to exist in this space of discomfort was really clear. The second thing is talking about this game is part of why I'm currently married. So we found this team. Candace had also brought together these collaborators to make this thing. We ended up making that game. It was supposed to be 2 months, but because, speaking of lessons learned, we ended up underestimating the bandwidth it would take from everyone involved to make this thing alongside other games like I'm Your Beast. We ended up having 1.5 months to make a 2-month game. It shows in some of our early bugs and the fact that I broke the build the minute it was supposed to come out, delaying launch by another 15 minutes. This game was chaotic and it was serious, and there was people even telling me it could impact my ability to have a career anymore, especially if it broke containment and it went bad, and people misunderstood where that game was coming from. So I was dating a woman who I really, really liked. Her name was Brienne, and I said, "Hey,
Still is.
Brienne." Still is Brienne. Different last name now, though. I was at a park late at night, and I said, "Hey, so we're talking about all these sort of plans. I'm doing something right now that may impact my ability to contribute to our household monetarily, because I'm making a game called Clickolding, and I just want to make sure you know about that and are cool with that." And what that culminated in was me miming out all the way up to the ending of the game and everything that happens there, the entire story of Clickolding in a dark park late at night, where she is in a way trapped with me. And after I stand up huffing from physical exertions of like acting out this entire thing and jumping back and forth to say, and the player will be here, and they do this, and then the Clickhold stands up, I went like, "So what do you think?" And she took a moment and paused, and she said, "I think people need to see unpleasant things. I think it's cool. And we were married a couple months later.
Hey, ruin your very nice thing that you were saying about your wife, but you said she wants people to see unpleasant things, and I wanted to go, well, yeah, she likes anime.
The most Colin energy. This is why people think you're a gremlin.
Energy. But yeah, she's also
You're
a giant.
such a
Watching Free
gremlin.
Ren, get off my back, all right?
Gremlin shit.
But yeah, that
gremlin shit.
Clickolding, as Candace really wonderfully put it, was always about something bigger, and the journey was to find that something bigger. Beatrix Stevens, Lively, our incredible intimacy consultant, was a huge piece of doing that and doing that right. And yeah, that was part of the journey of connecting with my wife, which makes that game very special, alongside all the other reasons I like it.
I mean, you can't argue with that. In terms of a way to wrap up talking about clickholding, I want to move on to the next game, which I think possibly is the most successful game from Scaffold, at least in my time here. But I Am Your Beast is the next game I want to talk about. And yeah, that game.